Chapter 460. On the way to the palace, Li Hongyuan already knew which concubine was pregnant. It was none other than Wei Xianfei, the former Wei's Princess Yi Ning. According to the time, it was not the first time she was pregnant, but at some time later, the two of them slept together again. It was normal for Wei Xianfei to plot against a child in order to settle down. But Lu Qingdi, who slept with the wrong person at the wrong time and lost face, should be very unhappy. Under normal circumstances, he would not sleep with the wrong person for the second time, but Lu Qingdi did. No one believed that it was a coincidence. If there was a second time, there would be a third and fourth time. As for how many times, probably only some people in the Jingshifang and some people in the harem who paid close attention to it knew. For Li Hongyuan, not to mention that Lu Qingdi now had a concubine who was pregnant, even if there were 10 or 100 more, he would not care. But it happened to be Wei Xianfei, when Lu Qingdi missed the imperial noble consort deeply. If Wan knew, she would be angry again. Many men, no matter how affectionate they were, did not prevent them from seeking pleasure with other women. Lu Qingdi was probably a typical example. He might feel ashamed and angry at the time, but after that, nothing happened. Wei Xianfei was a beauty, and she was raised to be delicate. Moreover, the first time she slept with Lu Qingdi, she was so wanton. Even if the hymen in her body was still there, she must have tasted the taste of love. She might even have been specially trained by someone. Who would do such a thing to her, a princess of the first wife? According to some of the words and deeds of the former Wei's eldest prince, one could infer a thing or two. Therefore, for a woman like Wei Xianfei, unless it was a man with a firm heart, a man who was not greedy for pleasure, or a man who was not fond of beauty, after tasting her once, it would be difficult for him not to touch her a second time. Therefore, as long as Wei Xianfei had the heart, she did not expect any favor. She just wanted to have sex with a man, which was not too difficult. Li Hongyuan entered the palace, and Lu Qingdi was still in the Yihe palace. So, there was nothing to avoid. When Lu Qingdi learned that Li Hongyuan wanted to see him, he was not only surprised, but also felt somewhat guilty. Because of this, his initial joy could not help but fade a little. He hurriedly asked someone to call him in. Li Hongyuan was the first man to truly move Wei Xianfei's heart. Although it may be because of his excellent and perfect appearance, her heart was truly moved. She had already prepared herself to be a concubine, but in the end, she didn't get what she wanted. Especially since the other party had never looked at her directly. It was normal for her to hate him because of love. Under such circumstances, he suddenly stood in front of her. Oh. It was also his first time stepping into her palace. She subconsciously placed her hand on her lower abdomen. She suddenly felt the panic of betraying her beloved. She was worried that he would misunderstand. She was worried. However, all these complicated emotions disappeared the moment she saw Li Hongyuan. That man still did not see her. How she was, whether she was pregnant with someone else's child, it had nothing to do with him. The complacency of achieving her goal was gone. Only strong hatred was left. She unconsciously clenched her hand on her lower abdomen. There was also a dull pain in her abdomen, but Wei Xianfei did not feel it at all at this moment. Old Six, why did you come to see me at this time? Lu Qingdi acted like a monarch and a father to cover up the strangeness in his heart. Son congratulates father first. Perhaps in a few months, son will have another younger brother. Although he was a little embarrassed, he was more happy. His concubine's pregnancy was the greatest affirmation of his imperial body. It was good to be old but strong. The longer he sat on the throne, the better. However, Lu Qingdi's good mood did not last long. Because this matter would obviously make his wife unhappy, and Li Hongyuan would inevitably make his father unhappy. Therefore, those emotionless eyes stared at Lu Qingdi. Regarding the establishment of the Imperial Noble Consort's altar, can you choose an auspicious date to start construction? This topic was completely unexpected. Luchingdi did not react for a while. Logically, this was not an urgent matter. There was no need to ask to see the concubine. Then, Luchingdi suddenly woke up, especially when his son's cold eyes swept over Wei Xianfei's belly. No matter how stupid he was, he should have understood what was going on. His Momo was still wandering in the world. Was she by his side most of the time? Then, Luchingdi could not help but shiver. Every time before he rolled with Wei Xianfei, it seemed that because he had looked at Momo's portrait for a long time, he could not sleep. If Momo happened to be by his side, how sad would she be? Seeing Luchingdi's stiff body, Li Hongyuan was like an ancient well without ripples. Because of the Imperial Noble Consort, he was able to live again and then get what he wanted. Therefore, he wanted to protect her. However, her emotional problems were not within his consideration at all. What kind of entanglement she had with his father, the Emperor, had nothing to do with him. Imperial father, this son needs to use the 2 imperial physicians. Please allow it. Because his heart was too weak, Luchingdi could not wait for his son to leave. He waved his hand, allow. Without asking for the reason. Thank you, father. Son will take his leave. The 2 imperial physicians who pretended to be in the background were still retreating. Li Hongyuan directly turned and left. His behavior, to put it seriously, was offensive. However, in Luchingdi's eyes, it was his son who was angry. On the day of the emperor's birthday, his son saw how he reacted when he received Momo's portrait. Then, he slept with another woman and was conferred the title of imperial concubine. His son must be unhappy now. Li Hongyuan took people out of the palace. He directly ordered people to take the imperial physicians and send them to the imperial college. As for what would happen to the 2 imperial physicians, sorry, but don't expect the living king of hell to care. Li Hongyuan returned to the palace. Jingwan was anxiously waiting for him. When she saw Li Hongyuan, she hurried to greet him. Ah Yuan, how is it? If it were not for her status, she would have rushed over personally. In fact, it was not that she could not go. However, if she went, not only would she not be able to help, but that family would also be busy serving her. That would be purely adding to the trouble. The imperial physicians have sent it over. What could be done had been done. Next, they could only wait for the results. Seeing that Jingwan could not sit still, Li Hongyuan's expression was a little gloomy. However, he could not flare up now. He sent people over to report immediately when the results were out. However, they waited for nearly 24 hours. This night, Jingwan did not sleep well. Of course, she was not the only one who did not sleep well. She did not sleep well, so Li Hongyuan naturally followed. His face could not be any darker. Then, the news finally came. The child was finally born, but the mother's body was bleeding profusely. She was saved, but her vitality was greatly damaged. It would be impossible for her to recover in a short time. Moreover, she was afraid that she could not give birth again. Moreover, the child was restrained in the mother's body for too long, which was not good. It was not known whether the child could survive. This situation seemed to be a great blessing. Jingwan's heart was still heavy. She asked Nanny Gong to open the storeroom and selected a lot of good medicinal materials to send over. As long as the child could recover, it would be fine. Even if she could not give birth again, she would not let her suffer as long as she was alive. However, the child was in the womb for too long. She was afraid that there would be no amniotic fluid, which would cause hypoxia. In the end, the child would suffer from anoxic cerebral palsy, which would be devastating to Xiangshuang. For Li Hongyuan, giving birth was just a matter. Although it was dangerous, he did not take it seriously. However, after listening to Jingwan's details, his eyes narrowed slightly. For other women, no matter how many of them died, it was not a big deal. But for Wan, Li Hongyuan was thinking about the possibility of not letting Jingwan have a child. When the libation lord received the things sent by Jingwan, he naturally thanked her profusely. Then, seeing so many good things, some people would not be able to see them in their lifetime. Naturally, they could not help but be greedy. They held the things in their hands and did not want to put them down. Seeing this, Nanny Gong was very clear about these things. Naturally, she hinted a few words. Was these things more important, or was your husband's future more important? You must think clearly. Although Jin Wangye had no power or influence, but to block the future of some people, it was also an easy matter. Nanny Gong looked at Zhou Yingshuang's husband again. Wang Fei Nyang is very concerned about your wife. After all, after Wang Fei Nyang entered the capital, she only made friends with a few girls. If it were not for her status, she would probably visit them in person. Wang Fei Nyang knows that you are a person who values friendship and righteousness. Don't disappoint Wang Fei Nyang's expectations. In the future. Her unfinished words were clear to everyone. Nanny Gong took her leave. The libation lord's family had different thoughts. However, as long as they had a little brain, they should know what to do. Chapter 461. In reality, Jingwan had indeed suffered a lot. She had toiled for an entire night and then spent the entire day lying in bed listlessly. Her small eyes were like knives, flying towards Li Hongyuan's body. However, a certain person's skin was too thick and his body's defense was too high. Not only was he not affected at all, he even looked refreshed. Jingwan even suspected that he was like a demon who plucked yin to nourish yang. His complexion was unbelievably good, just like that human-shaped medicine that made people's legs go soft. Originally, the maidservants by her side had never had any thoughts about him, but at this time, they couldn't help but blush and quickly scram even further away. Jingwan sometimes really wanted to say that it was a good thing that he had restrained himself outside. Otherwise, who knew how many hearts would have been broken and how many girls would have done shameless things. Sometimes she would feel sweet in her heart, but then she thought about how her waist was about to be broken and her legs were like noodles. Even with her physique, she could only imagine how miserably she had been tormented. Because of this, her heart was filled with despair. Li Hongyuan sat on the bedside and looked at Jingwan, whose entire body was covered by the blanket. Only the top of her head could be seen. He reached out to pull the blanket away, but Jingwan held it tightly and said in a low muffled voice, "Scram, scram as far away as your heart can. This princess doesn't want to see you right now." Li Hongyuan slightly raised his eyebrows and curled his lips into a smile, "Scram as far away as my heart can. But this husband's heart is with Wan. Wan's meaning, are you inviting this husband to scram on top of you? Did he have to be so vulgar?" Jingwan almost vomited blood. She was really too inexperienced. When facing this person, whether it was dissing him or flirting with him, she would always lose miserably in the end. If she ever won, it was definitely because the other party had let her win. Moreover, no matter what kind of opening it was, it would always end in a certain color. Probably not many people could cultivate such a skill. Li Hongyuan reached out to pull the quilt on Jingwan's head again, but he still couldn't pull it down. Li Hongyuan wasn't annoyed at all. He held his chin and said calmly, "Look, Wan is still so energetic. Can I continue to do something? After all, she is my wife, and I have to take care of her more or less. However, if my wife doesn't need it, then I don't have to worry too much, right?" Jingwan immediately lifted the quilt, revealing her naked body. Her fair skin looked a little pitiful, but it also revealed her boundless lust. Her decadent look caused a certain snake-like beast to become restless again. However, Jing Wan was completely like a dead fish. She was listless and did not realize it for a moment. Her gaze was still courting disaster and landed on a certain beast's unspeakable part. Can you still get hard? Before she could finish her sentence, Jing Wan was slapped in the face. It was the middle of winter, and there were several layers of clothes. They were thick to begin with, and there was an obvious bulge in that area. Jing Wan looked up in shock. Are you really human? Li Hongyuan saw it clearly, and he was also quite clear about her unfinished words. He smiled faintly. Wan, what do you think? She thought she wanted to die. He was indeed a beast. Li Hongyuan saw the obvious fear on Jingwan's face and couldn't help but laugh. He reached out and stuffed her arms back into the quilt, tucking the quilt under his chin. The pleasure of having intimate relations was all about pleasure. If she was afraid of this matter, what fun would there be? In fact, last night was already about the same. The reason why he had such a reaction was completely because he had a natural reaction to her, and he couldn't help it. Li Hongyuan touched her face. I won't disturb you, but you should eat something before you sleep. Don't harm your body. Jingwan obviously breathed a sigh of relief, and the words, "That's good," were clearly written in her eyes. Do you have something to do today? Although he usually tidied up very carefully in the prince's residence. And I still need to make the final arrangements for the imperial noble consort. I'm going to write a memorial and submit it. Jingwan nodded. Have you already decided on the start date? I've already sent people to look at it. It's estimated that Imperial Father's people will look at the date on that day. However, I'm afraid that someone will make things difficult, and the date might be brought forward. Speaking of this, Li Hongyuan's eyes seemed to be covered with black fog. Brought forward. If it was a good date, someone should look at the earlier date. However, even if the person who made things difficult wanted to bring forward the date, they wouldn't choose a bad date. They wouldn't be able to get past Luqingdi. Her mind raced. The date brought forward is the 2nd of the 2nd month. Li Hongyuan nodded slightly. Knowing what he was worried about, Jingwan smiled indifferently. The 2nd of the 2nd month is fine. It's not a big deal. What I'm worried about is whether the time will be a little rushed. It's fine if the location is close to the capital, but if it's far away, when the imperial edict is issued, the local government will have to make preparations. If someone makes a move, it might cause resentment among the people. We already know the location. Don't worry, the situation will be under control. However, if they disturb your birthday, it will be unforgivable. It was the first time for Li Hongyuan to celebrate his wife's birthday. If it went wrong, it would arouse Li Hongyuan's anger. Jingwan secretly lit a candle for some people in her heart. Good luck to them. After that, Li Hongyuan watched Jingwan eat something and went to do his own things. Jingwan went back to bed and slept. As Li Hongyuan expected, the start date of the altar was set on the 2nd of the 2nd month. It was only his daughter-in-law's birthday. In Luqingdi's eyes, it was naturally not as important as the imperial noble consort. Besides, in his opinion, these two things were not related at all. The imperial edict was sent to various places immediately. Fortunately, the people of the Ministry of Works had already gone to various places and made preparations. Otherwise, it would really be a mess. Originally, although there were rumors among the people that the imperial noble consort was the fairy of the 9th heaven, it had nothing to do with them. Could they let the people have enough to eat and wear? One of the laborers in the family was transferred to do manual labor. This manual labor was outside of the normal manual labor. How could people be happy? However, when they finally heard the news, it was really a pleasant surprise. Although it was a manual labor in name, it turned out that they would be paid. Moreover, it was 3 times the pay. Not only that, they would have 3 meals a day, 2 of which were dry and full. There was also fat meat. For many people, they might not even see a bit of meat in a month. Many people never knew what it felt like to have a full stomach. This was like a pie falling from the sky. Moreover, it was clearly written on the imperial edict. Therefore, they did not have to worry about the government acting one way and doing another. In this way, the people who were originally complaining all rushed forward. After all, many families had more than one able-bodied laborer. Even if they didn't want to be paid, they were very willing to do it based on the daily meals. Unfortunately, this time, the people of the government became serious. They didn't need to be fierce. Each family only had one able-bodied laborer and they didn't want him. This time, between brothers, between father and son, they all started to fight for this quota. The people who originally wanted to cause unrest all thought that Li Hongyuan was too cunning. They beat their chests and stamped their feet. Before they were done being angry, they started to sneer when they found out about this situation. Jin Qinhuang caused discord between father and son and brothers. If it was serious, it could even cause someone to die even if there was no such thing. They could also do this kind of thing, so, this kind of shit, they didn't believe that Jin Qinhuang could still clean it up. However, these people couldn't laugh for long. However, the next day, the government issued another notice. Father and son, choose the son, brothers, choose the elder. If they schemed against each other because of this matter, once found out, they would be invited to stay in prison for a few days. Moreover, if there was a similar matter in the imperial court in the future, the family would no longer have the chance. Subsequently, several examples were caught in various places. For ordinary people, prison was definitely one of the most taboo places. If they went in, no matter what the reason was, their reputation would be ruined. They would be spurned and unable to raise their heads. Therefore, the effect was very good. Even if they were unconvinced in their hearts, at most, they could only talk about it with their mouths and didn't dare to do anything. Lu Qingdi, who had been a little nervous about this matter, breathed a sigh of relief after he learned about the situation in various places. Although it was for the sake of his most beloved woman, he didn't want to be a fatuous emperor. However, Lu Qingdi had mixed feelings about his son, who had presented the memorial and considered the matter thoroughly. His son had always done things beautifully. If it weren't for the fact that he was the heir to the throne, there was no need to even think about it. However, because of his outstanding performance, Lu Qingdi began to feel a taboo, especially when the courtiers kept praising him. He didn't want his 6th brother to have thoughts that he shouldn't have because of this. That's right. Recently, there were many people praising Li Hongyuan. His momentum had greatly surpassed that of all the other princes. Now that things had developed to this point, who would believe that there was nothing fishy about it? Li Hongyuan hadn't been to the imperial court all this time, but he knew the details of this matter. Jingwan also knew about it. Jingwan was a little worried because of the momentum. Li Hongyuan didn't care. It's just praising before destroying it. It's not worth mentioning. The method isn't old-fashioned, as long as it's useful. Li Hongyuan, who was writing something with his head lowered, looked up at Jingwan. Wan, don't worry. We'll deal with it when it comes. It's just a small matter, not worth mentioning. It's good that you know it in your heart. I just don't know who is involved this time. This is one trick after another, one after another. It looks like they won't stop until they achieve their goal. It's just those few people. There's nothing to think about. They're just worried that I'll threaten them. It's just that if it's too big, won't the fact that you're the son of a ghost be exposed? Wan, you can rest assured about this. Except for Imperial Father and Imperial Concubine Su, everyone else who knew about this matter is dead. I think Imperial Concubine Su also told Li Hongming that if the matter was exposed, Imperial Concubine Su would definitely suffer. Even if the fabricated version was that Imperial Concubine Su died, the Emperor on the throne would be well aware of it. It would be a slap in his face. Imperial Concubine Su doesn't have the guts, and Li Hongming isn't stupid. Of course, if Imperial Father no longer has the ability to punish anyone, it's another matter. But even if it's really exposed, it won't change the final outcome. Since only Imperial Concubine Su and the Emperor know, then how did Prince know? It can't be that they told you, right? Jingwan was curious. It can't be that you were born with it, right? Born with it? That's a good excuse. The implication was that it wasn't the case. But it was obvious that he didn't want to tell her the real reason. Jingwan clicked her tongue and didn't pursue the matter. The Emperor should be summoning you soon, right? Probably. Li Hongyuan said carelessly. Speaking of which, these people are really energetic. They can't even take care of their own affairs, yet they still seize the opportunity to scheme against outsiders. None of them are tired of it. Having power in one's hands did indeed bring a lot of convenience and benefits, but was it really that important? Perhaps because of her previous life, Jingwan didn't understand it as deeply as those people. If they can achieve their goal, no matter how tired they are, they'll probably be happy. Throughout history, not many people who have sat on the throne have lived long lives. It's not that they don't work hard. This is known to all, but it still doesn't stop countless people from wanting that position. They can do anything, they can give up everything, anything. Jingwan was surprised that a certain someone could see through it so clearly. Then, Yuan, your husband still wants to live to 100 years old with you. Jingwan was speechless. But when she thought about how a certain someone planned so many things, she knew that he was probably busier than the Emperor. But in her eyes, he was idle all day long. So, she didn't need to worry about him working hard. In this way, she didn't need to worry about him being tired. There was a knock on the door of the study. Master, there's a message from the palace. They want you to go to the morning court tomorrow. Li Hongyuan didn't respond, and the people outside quietly retreated. I thought that the Emperor would summon you alone, but now he wants you to go to the morning court directly. What does he want? He just wants your husband to see with his own eyes how popular your husband is now. He wants to see if your husband will become arrogant because of all the flattery. You don't know who you are, you don't know what you're capable of. You also want to fight for the throne. Jingwan was disgusted by such methods. She might as well have suppressed him directly. If he didn't give him any hope, then he would have made him despair to the very end. Why did he have to use such a method of giving him hope and then ruthlessly smashing him down? This was his favorite son. A father like this could only be sad. Jingwan looked at Li Hongyuan. Fortunately, her husband wasn't the kind of person who could be manipulated at will. He also didn't have any feelings for his old man. Going to the morning court on such a cold day was definitely a very torturous thing. Although it was warmer now, it was still far from enough, especially in the morning. Li Hongyuan took his time. He didn't plan to enter the palace early and then wait for the morning court to start. When he entered the court leisurely, the morning court was about to end, and the ministers had almost finished talking about the things to be reported. Luqingdi rubbed his temples and cursed in his heart. It should be known that the frequency of his catchphrase in front of Li Hongyuan was getting lower and lower. However, he still had to curse from time to time to feel satisfied. Luqingdi wanted to stop him outside, but when he thought about his purpose and thought about the bad temper of this bastard, if he really stopped him outside, he would definitely turn around and leave the palace. Come in. Li Hongyuan, dressed in the imperial robe of a prince, came in unhurriedly. He was handsome and elegant. No one could compare with his appearance. Every time he did this, people would sigh in their hearts. How could there be such a perfect person in the world? However, when he spoke and acted, all the good impressions would be shattered in seconds. It was really heartbreaking. A Ken pays respect to Fu Wang. Long live Fu Wang. No need for formalities. Luqingdi was a bit weak. Compared to others, his feelings were the deepest. On one hand, he was gratified, and on the other hand, he was distressed. On the other hand, he hoped that he would be outstanding, and on the other hand, he was afraid that he would covet the throne. Luqingdi naturally praised his son as well, saying that he did a good job in building the altar for the imperial Gui Fei. As soon as his voice fell, the ministers echoed one after another, praising Li Hongyuan as if he was rare in the heavens, unparalleled on earth, a dragon steed and phoenix chick. It seemed that compared to him, everyone else was trash. First, this time's matter was indeed done well, and it wasn't an empty promise. Second, the money that was distributed all came from Jin Qin Wang Fu, but it was under the name of Luqing Emperor and the entire imperial court. Maybe they could even get some benefits from it. Third, they raised Jin Qin Wang high up. Now, the emperor was afraid of these things. Once they were rejected by the emperor, then there was nothing to worry about. Therefore, it was only a few words, but it was naturally exaggerated. Seeing that Luqingdi's face was obviously gloomy, some people thought that they had achieved their goal and spoke more energetically, but they didn't see their own master pinching people's faces. As the saying goes, going too far is as bad as falling short. Luqingdi wasn't a fool. How could he not see the intention of these people? They didn't see that some of the ministers, whose expressions had changed slightly, didn't care at all. They even twirled their beards from time to time. Could it be that these people were also planted by Jin Qin Wang? It was just that these people were in the limelight for a while and forgot themselves. If they continued, they were afraid that Jin Qin Wang would be fine, but the others would suffer. Some of the people who held the right to speak hurriedly stood up and cut off their words. They also suppressed Li Hongyuan's reputation. And those people who were talking non-stop just now seemed to have reacted. Cold sweat faintly appeared on their heads. They quickly returned to their ranks, lowered their eyes, and didn't dare to speak again. Li Hongyuan, on the other hand, had the same expression from beginning to end. There wasn't the slightest bit of complacency from being flattered. Luqingdi faced Li Hongyuan. Lao Lu, this time's performance was excellent. Shen wants to reward you. What do you want? Imperial Gui Fei is Urchin's birth mother. Doing something is what she should do. There is no need for Fu Huang to reward her. Those are two different things. What do you want? There's no harm in saying it. Fu Huang really wants to reward me. Golden mouth and jade words. Luqingdi said so, but his heart was somewhat anxious. He was really afraid that he would ask for an exorbitant price. After all, this evil creature had done things that he couldn't do. So, Fu Huang sent people to various places to find 100 kinds of exotic flowers and herbs for a Ken. Don't alarm the local government, and don't disturb the common people. Li Hongyuan said lightly, sounding really impolite. Luqingdi's expression was a bit subtle. 100 kinds of flowers and herbs, it really wasn't a big deal. However, to be so considerate of the common people, this son, wasn't he? Luqingdi's expression didn't change, but his heart was already full of twists and turns. Are you asking for this for your wife? Many people in the capital knew that Jingwan was good at and liked to raise flowers and plants. Even some important officials in the imperial court would fight for the flowers and plants in her hands. Is there anything wrong? Li Hongyuan was very indifferent. It's not that there's anything wrong, but you are a dignified prince. Every time you open your mouth, you talk about your wife. Have you ever considered other people's feelings? Especially the one sitting on the throne, who is your father. As a son, facing his son in front of his mother can cause trouble, let alone in front of his father. That's pure love, what a good-for-nothing. Not really. You really dote on your wife. Luchingdi's words seemed to be mocking him, but also seemed to be happy to see it. Not really. After all, it's what she deserves. I'm a big man, how can I hide it from her? Oh, Lao Lu, you sound like this matter is all thanks to your wife. Luchingdi was interested. Otherwise, even if you think that it was Urchin's idea, you still need to have some basis. Akan grew up under the sun of heaven. What I ate and wore were the best things. The people I met were either rich or noble. Does Imperial Father think that Akan would know what the lives of ordinary people are like? Father, you should feel lucky that you didn't say something like, why not eat meat paste? If you don't know the suffering of people, how can you know what they need, and how can you know what kind of trouble it will cause? No matter how thick-skinned I am, I can't take this kind of credit. After all, it can't withstand scrutiny and can be exposed easily. Li Hongyuan's tone was calm, but there was no lack of sarcasm in his words. However, no one could say that he was wrong. Luchingdi was a little embarrassed. Well, he really didn't think of this before. However, even if he didn't think of it, didn't the entire imperial court think of it? In an instant, Luchingdi started a conspiracy theory again. I don't know what those people who keep flattering me are thinking. Are they going to jump out and accuse me of relying on women after I take credit for this? Hearing Li Hongyuan's words, Luchingdi felt more and more that this was the case. Therefore, he wanted to mess with Li Hongyuan but failed. He even got himself into trouble. It was a typical case of losing the wife and losing the soldiers. Your Highness, your words are too serious. Princess consort and you are husband and wife. Whether it's her credit or your idea, it's normal to take it on your head. After all, there are some things that a man can do but a woman can't. Elder Lu of the cabinet stood out and said unhurriedly. As soon as he said this, many people agreed with him. Li Hongyuan sneered, I'm sorry. I'm a man. I can't do this kind of thing. Besides, what's the use of this credit? It's for the sake of Princess Consort's mother-in-law who passed away, for the sake of my father and the imperial family's reputation, and for the sake of the people's lives. I don't want to make trouble. At this point, this matter couldn't be forcefully blamed on Li Hongyuan. After all, no matter how much he said, it was actually nonsense. The most important thing was that Luchingdi didn't want Li Hongyuan to have too high of a reputation. Luo Aiqing is a good girl raised by your family. The Luo family's upbringing should be a good example. Luo Peishan hurriedly stood out, Your Majesty, you're too kind. It's all, Luchingdi waved his hand, Luo Aiqing doesn't need to be so modest. Zhen has seen how Lao Lu's wife is. Don't say that she married into the imperial family. With this evil creature's virtue, it can only be because he is close to ink. Lao Lu's wife is able to keep her heart and constantly admonish this evil creature to restrain himself. This is all because of your family's good upbringing. Come, Jin Qinhuang Fei is virtuous and virtuous. He fiercely praised her, not to be outdone by the praise that some court officials had given to Li Hongyuan. Then, he bestowed a lot of things, and the flowers and plants that Li Hongyuan wanted were also granted. Then, he gave Luo Peishan a lot of things as a reward. Smart people knew that Luchingdi was trying his best to exaggerate Jin Qinhuang Fei's contributions and weaken Jin Qinhuang Fei's reputation. After all, no matter how high a woman's reputation was, it would not stir up a storm in the whirlpool of power. At most, it would be the benefits that the emperor bestowed. Why would they care about that? In fact, this was also the purpose of the other prince's successive calculations. Although the process was different, but in the end, it was all the same. Now, outsiders only knew that Jin Qin Wang Fei was benevolent, but did not mention Jin Qin Wang Fei at all. However, according to Li Hongyuan's thinking, this was also what he wanted. He really didn't need fame at all. This thing, no matter how high it was, in fact, it couldn't affect who would sit on the throne. Unless it was the kind of person who cared a lot about fame and hoped to become a wise emperor, otherwise, there really weren't many people who would work hard and be careful for this. As the saying goes, water can carry a boat, but it can also capsize a boat. However, unless it was extremely cruel and made the people unable to make a living, there weren't many uprisings by ordinary people. More often, it was the ambition of the superior. For women, it was different. A good reputation was more beneficial to them, especially when it was praised by the superior. For example, now, if someone said that Jingwan wasn't good, a sentence, the emperor said that she was good. You mean, the emperor said that he was wrong, could block that person's mouth. So, in the end, it was a happy ending. Jingwan listened to the servant girl's retelling of the rumors outside and couldn't help but blush. Ah Yuan, isn't this too much? Those things, weren't you the one who brought it up? That's right, but, then it's fine. Why bother so much? If you're thin-skinned and embarrassed, just pretend that you don't know. Jingwan could only maintain her silence once again. Forget it, there was no need to think about those useless things. The next day was the second day of the second month. The night before, the entire Jin Qin Wang Fu was brightly lit and began to prepare for their mistress's birthday. Although they were busy, they were all full of spirit. However, Jingwan wasn't that busy. She still did what she needed to do. After eating breakfast, she changed and dressed up. The servant girls did their best to dress her up beautifully without losing the dignity of a Qin Wang Fei. After dressing up, she turned in a circle in front of her lord husband. Women dress up for their sweetheart. Jingwan now also had this tendency. However, Jin Qin Wang today seemed to be somewhat lacking in interest. He held the book seriously and didn't look at Jingwan's body. Jingwan expressed that she wasn't happy. Then, Li Hongyuan finally gave her a charitable look and faintly opened his mouth. If you don't want the guests to wait for you to be in the room and unable to leave, then be a bit more reserved. Don't seduce this husband. Jingwan almost choked. This psychopath, animal, hooligan. And said that she wasn't reserved. Seduce him. Just let him look at the clothes and makeup, that's all. Only a pervert like him would have a brain full of yellow waste all day. So, it could be said that the living king of hell was completely afraid that she wouldn't be able to control herself, so he picked up the book to read and calm his heart. Jingwan bluntly slapped his face. Then she angrily walked out. Li Hongyuan rolled up the book in his hand and propped his chin up. The corner of his mouth hooked up into a pure smile. So far, he was very satisfied with his days. Even if there weren't a few little bugs jumping around in front of him and looking for trouble, but the flaws couldn't obscure the beauty. After sitting for a while, Li Hongyuan got up and casually threw the book in his hand and walked out. Finding Jingwan, he took her hand. Wanwan's birthday is today. How about looking at the birthday gift this husband has prepared? Sure. Although Li Hongyuan had given her too many things, she was still looking forward to her birthday gift. Giving a gift was naturally to cater to her preferences. The things that Jingwan liked were really simple and not simple at the same time. From Jingwan's point of view, her husband must have gotten her some exotic flowers and herbs from somewhere. Jingwan guessed wrong this time. Following Li Hongyuan to a courtyard at the back, a cat walked elegantly towards Jingwan and the others. It wasn't afraid of strangers at all. It even squatted in front of Jingwan and meowed. Although it was pure black, it was small and looked chubby. One of its eyes was blue and the other was purple. It looked elegant and noble, but its size was unbelievably cute. Jingwan, who had a soft spot for fur, couldn't help but feel that it was adorable. She bent down and wanted to pick it up. Li Hongyuan used a little strength and pulled Jingwan back. What did this husband say? Wan seems to have ignored it. Jingwan was a little stunned for a moment. What and what? Then, she finally remembered. So, even though you've given it to me, I can only look at it and can't touch it. Li Hongyuan chuckled. His smile was like a spring breeze, but the words that followed were especially cruel. If you hug it, this prince will get someone to make it into fertilizer. Wan, think carefully. Since you've given it to me but won't let me touch it, you might as well not give it to me, Jingwan complained. This man was simply making trouble for no reason. Since that's the case, this husband will immediately send it away. Send it to be used as fertilizer. Jingwan gritted her teeth. She wanted to bite this bastard to death. Jingwan felt that she would probably have an unlucky year. On the day of her birthday, she had only opened her eyes for a short while, and she had already been angered by her husband twice. Jingwan could only look at the little kitten in front of her. A certain perverted psychopath could do what he said. She'd better not act rashly and let the little fellow lose its life in vain. However, this little fellow had obviously gone through strict training. It was the first time it saw Jingwan. It seemed to be very close and attached to her, but it didn't directly pounce on Jingwan. It was obvious that it wanted to please Jingwan, and it was also in line with the idea of plotting against the King of Hell. Li Hongyuan held Jingwan's hand and continued to move forward. Although he had expected that he would give her more than just a kitten, Jingwan knew that someone must have spent a lot of manpower, material resources, and time on this. There were common cats and dogs of various breeds. Although they were all cubs, they were of different sizes. Some were slim, some were round, some were lively, and some were cute. Then, there were lions, leopards, mountain leopards, foxes, deer, and so on. In short, cute and beautiful animals could be found here. What surprised Jingwan the most was a snow-white fox. There was a kind of fox in the snow mountains in the north. It was snow-white and had a strange fragrance. In the valley of the Summer Palace, someone had mentioned this kind of fox. Now, it was actually in front of her. According to Jingwan's knowledge, the population of the fox was very small, and it was even more difficult to catch. It lived in the north, in the cold areas, deep in the mountains and forests, and was covered by snow all year round. It could be said that there was no such fox in the Qi Yuan, and it was extremely precious. Jingwan couldn't help but touch its fur again and again. It was soft and smooth, and the touch was really admirable. At this time, Li Hongyuan didn't refuse, but when Jingwan completely ignored him, he said, Wan, if I use this white fur to make a collar for you, it should be very beautiful, don't you think? Moreover, it is said that the fox's fur will still have a strange fragrance after a few years after its death. It is its good fortune to give it to you. When Li Hongyuan said the first sentence, Jingwan retracted her hand. Damn, this narrow-minded man. In addition to these, did Yuan prepare any other gifts for me? Li Hongyuan looked at her quietly for a moment. Wan, for a little beast, you scolded me in your heart and changed the topic with a seductive smile. This kind of beast, I think it really shouldn't be kept alive. Jingwan felt that maybe she should be mentally prepared for death. https://11/11807/10342228 Chapter 462. Jingwan felt that she should be mentally prepared to die. Therefore, it was not a good thing to have a husband who seemed to be able to see through everything. Ah Yuan, if you kill this little fox, I will be sad. Can you bear to do that? Jingwan sent a tearful emoji. Then, Wan, do you have the heart to make your husband sad because of a little bastard? Li Hongyuan asked, quietly. This is not comparable at all. It was clearly you, a man made of vinegar, who was narrow-minded. Of course, it is not comparable. After all, I am your husband. What about it? Ha! Li Hongyuan chuckled. Jingwan inexplicably read the sadness in his expression. It was as if the person in front of him was a scumbag woman who could put a beast in front of him. It was as if he wanted to dig out his heart for her, but she did not cherish it. Jingwan was burdened with a sense of guilt. Li Hongyuan, you are good. You win. Sister admits defeat. Jingwan reached out to pull Li Hongyuan's face. Fine. In the future, I will only look at these little things. I will not touch, or hug them. I will only touch, hug, and kiss you. Is that enough? Why don't you just fall into a vat of vinegar and drown to death? How shameless. Her eyebrows curved into a smile. Li Hongyuan held Jingwan's hand and took it away from his face. He approached her, lowered his head, and pressed his forehead against hers. Wan, do you think your husband will be stupid enough to drink vinegar? Before I die of vinegar, I will definitely kill the person who made me jealous first, and then I will take you with me. You are my person in life, and you are my soul in death. Even if you are a few years younger than me, don't expect to die before me in this life. Do you understand? His warm breath sprayed on Jingwan's face. The king of hell was also crazy at this time. However, Jingwan was not afraid at all. She reached out and wrapped her arms around her husband's waist. She raised her head slightly and closed her eyes. They could clearly feel each other's eyelashes. I will remember Ah Yuan's words. Ah Yuan, don't forget it. I'll use the years to prove it. No matter how much he said, it was all just empty words. As for the eyesore fragrant fox, it was quickly carried away by a discerning servant. They had clearly come to see the gifts, but in the end, the two of them were so intimately hugging each other. The maidservants expressed that they had seen this scene many times and believed that this was the norm between husband and wife. They were worried that they would not be happy after getting married. Master Ah, can't you restrain yourself a little and avoid taboo a little? So to say, Jingwan still did not realize how much dog food she had spread to her man, and how much dog food she had abused. Of course, those who were forced to eat dog food were not all choked. There were also those who learned from it. For example, an E, who had been transferred to the head of the imperial bodyguards, could not be called an E now. However, he had two identities, so now he could only use the name on the surface. Imperial bodyguard Qian paid attention to the interaction between the two masters. Of course, he could not always stare at them. Otherwise, if Wang Ye found out, he reckoned that he would dig out his eyeballs. Some things, with a glance, it was enough to roughly remember it. Then he looked at his future wife. She was calm and capable, her temperament was gentle, and she was also a beauty. No matter how he looked at it, he felt that he had profited greatly. As a shadow guard, he had thoughts about Wang Fei's maidservant. He was already prepared to see the other party marry someone else. He did not think that the road would take a turn and completely turn around. He was not punished, and the marriage was set. It was simply like a dream. He ruthlessly pinched himself, it hurt. Then, the head of the imperial bodyguards of Jin Wangfu who did not smile laughed until he became a fool. The future wife had stayed by Wang Fei's side for a long time, so she must have been deeply affected. Therefore, he was already prepared to guard his wife for a lifetime. Speaking of which, as long as one had thoughts about Wang Fei's maidservant, they should have this kind of awareness. Now, they solemnly vowed, but in the future, if they could not do it, they would certainly not have a good fruit to eat. According to Wang Fei's character, she might not directly do anything, but if she only frowned and looked at them coldly, Wang Ye would absolutely be able to tidy them up. Thinking carefully, even if he only guarded his wife, it seemed that there was nothing bad about it. Moreover, Wang Ye could guard her, so why couldn't they? The temptations that Wang Ye faced were as many as the sea compared to them. Originally, everyone was the same, but in the end, as the boss, and he actually wanted his wife and children to warm the Kong. The brothers were definitely dissatisfied. Now, seeing him looking at his future wife with a foolish expression, each and every one of them unobtrusively used their elbows, scabbards, and even twigs and small stones to greet his waist, let him show off. Imperial bodyguard Qian was attacked, but he only turned his head to take a glance and did not take it seriously. He knew what kind of mentality these brothers had. He was a great person and was magnanimous. Moreover, if the commotion was big and alerted Master, he was afraid that he would not be able to bear the consequences. In fact, although these people envied an E, this kind of feeling wasn't strong. They wouldn't try to hook up with the people around the princess consort just because of an E. If they had the same fate as an E, it would naturally be the best. If they didn't, they wouldn't force it. Their attitude had always been very upright and they knew what they should do. Suddenly, a mournful cat's cry came from the direction of the courtyard door, breaking this tranquil beauty. Li Hongyuan's face did not change, but the people next to him clearly felt the coldness. Speaking of which, who was so bold in the Wangfu to do such a thing? Jingwan pulled Li Hongyuan's hand. Let's go and have a look. No need. Li Hongyuan did not move, but in a moment, Muan had already come in with people. Seeing them, Jingwan couldn't help laughing. Yao, you came so early. Cousin-in-law. The little girl's face was a little uncomfortable as if she had done something wrong, especially when she secretly raised her eyes to look at Li Hongyuan. What happened just now was most likely her masterpiece. Yao, what's wrong? Jingwan asked with a smile. Cousin-in-law, when I came in just now, I saw your cat. It was sitting there obediently, so I reached out to hold it, but it didn't let me. I was so anxious that I accidentally grabbed its fur. It struggled too hard, so... Yao slowly raised a handful of black fur in her hand. No wonder it cried so miserably. Looking at the fur, Jingwan was sure that it was the little cutie she saw when she came in just now. She felt a little sorry for the little guy. It's okay. You believe that Yao didn't do it on purpose, right? Yao hurriedly nodded. I really didn't do it on purpose. Jingwan reached out to touch her head to comfort her. She turned around. Muan, ask people to guard the courtyard door. Don't let the little guys run out again. Also, inform the servants in the courtyard to capture all the animals after we leave. There are so many guests in the mansion today, so don't offend them. Most importantly, there would definitely be a lot of children coming. They liked small animals, but not everyone knew how to cherish them. Sometimes, children were naive and cruel, and they didn't think that it was wrong to abuse those animals. In fact, in the eyes of those high officials and nobles, they were just small pets and weren't worth anything. Jingwan didn't want such a thing to happen right under her nose. Some reasons couldn't be reasoned with, so she could only take precautions herself. Yes. Muan responded and hurriedly went to do it. This place could be considered a small rare beasts garden. Because it was found by Li Hongyuan to give to Jingwan, naturally, there couldn't be any mistakes. Therefore, at least one person was taking care of each little guy, and it could be a professional. When Li Hongyuan and Jingwan came, they had already been sent away. Because their presence would definitely make the prince, who had brought his wife, unhappy. Therefore, the number of people in the rare beasts garden was definitely much more than expected. Your Highness, why don't you go to the front yard first, and I'll show Yu Yao around. Jingwan said. Li Hongyuan glanced at Yu Yao. His good mood and good atmosphere had already been ruined. Could it be that he still had to accompany a little girl? Therefore, there was really no need to stay here. He nodded and directly left. Yu Yao stood beside Jingwan and made a face at Li Hongyuan's back. Cousin-in-law, cousin has always been so fierce. I think you're the only one who can stand him. If it were me, I wouldn't care about him. Jingwan couldn't help laughing. Your cousin is treating outsiders, but he is very nice to me. Moreover, your cousin is at most a little cold. How is he fierce? He is such a handsome man. Of course, these were just thoughts in her mind. Jingwan took Yu Yao's hand and began to walk around. Yu Yao, why are you alone? Where are your parents? When Great Elder Princess and Prince Consort Jiang came, there was no reason for the people outside not to inform them. Sometimes, children could not be restrained and ran fast, so they were not a threat and were let in. They are at home. I don't know when they will go out, so I came here first with them. Yu Yao giggled. Cousin-in-law, when will your parents come? In Great Elder Princess's mansion, there were not many people close to her because of her position. As for Yu Yao, she was somewhat similar to her mother in nature. She was proud and casual. She was naturally close to those she liked. Other than that, blood relations could not make them close. As for the 6th Miss and the 7th Miss of the Luo family, Yu Yao was willing to pay attention to them at first, perhaps because of Jingwan. Later, they really played together. I'm afraid they have to wait a little longer. Oh. Yu Yao was a little depressed, but in a moment, she became happy again. Cousin-in-law, why are there so many small animals in your mansion? What are they? I haven't seen many of them. They all look so cute. Leaning on the edge of the specially made exquisite and beautiful fence, Lin Mingya's eyes were shining. She couldn't wait to go up, hold them all in her arms, and give them a big hug. It's not my birthday. Your cousin specially came to find me. Although she was facing a little girl, Jingwan wanted to show off. After she finished speaking, she realized it and secretly despised herself. It's my cousin's birthday gift to you. Yu Yao's little face fell again. If it were a little rabbit, its ears would have drooped. Yu Yao, you like it? Then I'll give you 2, okay? Can I? The rabbit's ears should have stood up again. The child's face was really childish. The weather in June really changed very quickly. But it's my cousin's gift to you. Isn't it a little inappropriate? Yu Yao was a little hesitant. Her mother said that a woman, as long as it was a gift from her husband, she could not easily ask for it, even if she was the owner. It was not as simple as a beloved thing. In fact, Yu Yao did not understand it very well, but it did not prevent her from listening to her mother's words. As for why Great Elder Princess said such words to her daughter, well, it was purely setting an example. Jingwan understood in her heart. As the youngest daughter of Great Elder Princess, Yu Yao was doted on. Perhaps she was a little spoiled, but in general, she was actually taught very well by Great Elder Princess. Perhaps it was because the former daughter disappointed Great Elder Princess, so she devoted more effort to the younger daughter. It doesn't matter. Cousin-in-law, there are many more. But after Yu Yao takes them back, you must take good care of them. Even if you don't like them in the future, don't throw them away. Send them back to me, okay? Yu Yao promised and then began to choose the beloved pets to take back with starry eyes. Speaking of which, there were many cats and dogs in Great Elder Princess's mansion, but most of them were relatively common breeds. After all, Yu Yao was just a little girl. In the capital city, even if there were people who raised rare birds for high officials and nobles to enjoy, Yu Yao had never seen them. At this moment, when she saw all kinds of animals, she asked Jingwan what they were one by one. Jingwan answered patiently and thought in her heart that in many aspects, she had more advantages than in her previous life. For example, there were all kinds of strange and magical animals in the natural world. Even very young children could see them. Even if they could not see them in real life, they could learn about them from TV and the internet. But now, even the rich might not see many of them in their lives. Yu Yao's understanding of these animals mostly came from books. Now, she combined the images and the words with the reality, and she was amazed again and again. However, looking at these little guys, she doubted whether they were really fierce, powerful, and even man-eating beasts. Although cousin-in-law said that these were all cubs and were not aggressive, was there such a big gap between adults and cubs? Xiao Yu Yao's heart began to stir. She wanted to see their adult bodies. Cousin-in-law, can you give me a lion cub and a tiger cub? Jingwan blinked. Shouldn't girls like cats and dogs? Yu Yao, lions and tigers only look very cute now. In the future, when they grow up, they will be completely different. I know. I just want to see how fierce they are when they grow up. Then you can come to see them when they grow up. But I want to see them grow up. Cousin-in-law, can't you give them to me? That's not it. Yu Yao, it's like this. If it's a kitten or a puppy, I can give it to you directly. But lions and tigers are too dangerous. So, I have to ask your mother first and she agrees before I can give it to you. Jingwan looked at Yu Yao. Could it be that this little girl actually had a valiant heart? Okay. Yu Yao was obedient and did not make a scene. Yu Yao also saw the fragrant fox, and was pleasantly surprised for a while. She lovingly stroked it, and her whole body exuded an aura of liking. A fox was very rare. The energy spent on this fox might be more than that of other animals. Therefore, she was afraid that she could not give it away. Of course, it was not because it was precious that she did not want to give it away, but because she could not let down the man who gave it to her. Jingwan thought about how to refuse Yu Yao without making her sad. After that, even when she saw other little guys, Yu Yao kept holding it. Until, Princess, old Madame Luo, young Madam, Miss and young Master are here. Ah, they are finally here. Yu Yao was about to put down the fox. She turned her head and was a little reluctant. In the end, she put it down. Jingwan gently raised her eyebrows. Did she not intend to take it at all? Yu Yao, you don't want it. Jingwan was purely curious about Yu Yao's thoughts. She did not intend to not give it to her and deliberately provoked her. I want it, but there is only one. If I take it away, won't my cousin-in-law lose it? Mother said that no matter what it is, if you like it, you can't take it away from others. Yu Yao was like a little adult, serious. Indeed, there was more than one tiger and lion before. Yu Yao is really a good child. Jingwan touched her head. This fox, your cousin-in-law really can't give it to you. Your cousin found it with great difficulty. Well, if your mother agrees, I will give you 2 little lions and 2 little tigers, okay? Thank you, cousin-in-law. Yu Yao nodded with a smile. Then cousin-in-law, can I take one to the front to play now? Didn't you say that they are still young and have been trained, so they won't hurt people? I will take good care of them. Looking at Yu Yao's expectant little eyes, Jingwan hesitated for a moment, but finally agreed. Yu Yao took a little lion cub and happily went to find her playmates. Jingwan asked someone to find a person to take care of the little lion cub. It turned out to be a delicate young boy, who looked at most 13 years old. Standing in front of Jingwan, he was a little reserved. Jingwan nodded slightly. Bai Xiao, take him there and keep an eye on Yu Yao. Don't let the little tiger cub hurt people. The place was prepared for children to play. After that, it would basically be their world, and there might be some women. Although it was an outsider, it was not a big deal for a young boy to be watched by someone. Yes, Your Highness. Bai Xiao understood tacitly. On the other side, Jingwan also went to meet the Luo family, who had been let in. Madame Luo led a group of people to greet Jingwan. Although it was her birthday, because she was still young, there was naturally no birthday greetings. If a group of lineal elders really birthday greetings, it would purely be a waste of her life. However, because of her status, a few auspicious words were still necessary. After the formalities were over, Jingwan hurried forward to help Madame Luo up. Grandmother. Then she called them one by one and said with a smile, I was wondering when you would come over. Now is the right time. I just wanted to come over early to see if I could help. There are only 2 people in the prince's mansion, you and the prince, and I didn't see you call anyone from the Internal Affairs Department. Madame Luo said. There are more than enough people in the prince's mansion, so we didn't ask for anyone from the Internal Affairs Department. But when we entertain the guests later, we may have to trouble you to help us entertain the madams of each mansion. Of course. When a married daughter had something to do in the family, if there were no elders, it was normal for the maternal family to help. Even if the elders and brothers were there was nothing wrong with the maternal family helping the daughter. In the royal family, it was naturally a little special. When the princes came of age, they would be sent out one by one. Naturally, they couldn't rely on their parents to take care of things. Among the brothers, they were also of extremely noble status. At most, they would greet other brothers or uncles in the royal family. There was no reason for them to help other guests. Therefore, most people could only choose people from the Internal Affairs Department. If they wanted the princess's maternal family to help, they had to be presentable and presentable. Obviously, there was no problem at all with the Luo family. According to Madame Luo's status, it was enough to entertain those old princesses. After the Luo family came to visit, there would be people coming one after another. At this time, there was a need to pay attention to who came first. For Jingwan, it wasn't the first time she had met people like this, so she was able to handle it with ease. After all, she only needed to greet most of the people and get someone to lead them to the flower pavilion or garden. She didn't need to care about them anymore. These people, whether they were old, young, they could find their own place to go. Socializing was almost an instinct for these people, and those who needed her company were a minority. There were also some who didn't even need Jingwan to greet them personally. She just needed to send a maidservant or a nanny. Li Hongyuan's side was even simpler. Most people were still in the yamen, and it was not time to wait for him to come. Besides, even if they came, Li Hongyuan just sat there without moving. His brothers and relatives of the royal family didn't go to greet him, so no one could do anything to him. Even if they were unhappy, they could only hold it in. Thinking about it carefully, it seemed that this was the first time that Li Hongyuan personally welcomed a guest. Jin Wangfu had been established for several years, but it had never done anything. The first time was when Li Hongyuan got married. At that time, there were many people who helped him to entertain the guests. What he needed to do was to go through the wedding agenda, and then drink some wine during the banquet. Other than that, he didn't care about anything else. However, Li Hongyuan gave face to Jingwan today. Those who needed to be personally welcomed, he went. Because of this, those who saw him, including his brothers who came relatively early, were all flattered. Some were even frightened. That scene was really a bit funny. Jingwan originally just casually asked about the situation here. When she learned about this situation, she didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Each and every one of them was really used to being abused by the living king of hell. The living king of hell just did something that normal people would do, but the reaction was so big. Of course, no one would care about this kind of thing. People like Jingwan were just watching the fun. After the more crowded wave of guests, Jingwan also sat down. The people present, other than those in the imperial palace, were the most distinguished group of people in the entire Qiyuan. They carried a decent smile and said decent words. Whether it was drinking tea or occasionally eating something, they were all elegant. Their words and actions were the best examples. These people might be used to it and didn't feel that there was any problem. However, in the eyes of outsiders, especially those who were more lively, just looking at them would make them feel tired and flustered. Jingwan, as the host, from time to time took the opportunity to entertain the guests. She got up and walked around. And she adapted well. This was the first time Jingwan held a birthday banquet in the Prince Yu's mansion. Naturally, she wanted to make it perfect. From the tea and snacks, she thought about the tastes of these people and what they didn't eat. As for the others, from the elderly to the children who were crying piteously for food, she made special preparations for them. Even though Jingwan was now the princess, she couldn't be influenced by the concept of hierarchy. Obviously, she was more considerate of others. Even if she didn't personally prepare anything for today's banquet, she would give orders when she thought of something. In particular, the entire Prince Yu's mansion was arranged with people everywhere. It was absolutely impossible for anyone to cheat someone to do something in a certain place. In this way, even if someone tried to nitpick at a bone in an egg, they could only pick out some minor flaws at most. Even if they didn't say anything, many people were sure of Miss Luo's upbringing in their hearts. Regardless of whether the men would like such a woman, these women, especially those who were of a certain age, liked her very much. Nowadays, many marriages belonged to the same sex. Mothers-in-law liked their daughters-in-law, and fathers-in-law liked their son-in-law. If they liked their daughters-in-law, they would make the final decision. As for their children's opinions, whether they liked them or not, and what they liked were ignored. When they were talking happily, a maid in the mansion hurried in and said, "Your Highness, young Master Wingzhu of Great Elder Princess's mansion is fighting with the second young master of Prince Kang's mansion and the heir of Prince Gong's mansion." Before Jingwan did anything, Great Elder Princess, the concubine of Prince Kong, and the concubine of Princess Gong changed their faces. No matter what the reason was, Yu Yao was an elder or a girl, and those young masters were juniors or boys. From this point of view, the latter was in the wrong. Looking at Great Elder Princess's gloomy face, the concubine of Prince Kong and the concubine of Princess Gong, who was used to being arrogant, couldn't help complaining in her heart, let alone the concubine of Prince Kong. In front of a group of concubines and princesses, she could only pretend to be the background. Prince Kong didn't have a concubine, but he had to send a kind of child to Prince Jin's mansion, so she could only bear it. After she came, naturally, she was extremely embarrassed. The two concubines hurriedly apologized to Great Elder Princess. Great Elder Princess ignored them and took Jingwan to the place where the accident happened. Great Elder Princess knew what her daughter was like. After all, she was already 10 years old, so she was not a little girl. Most of the time, she thought that she was an adult and disdained to argue with children. She thought that she had good etiquette and was a little lady. If there was no reason, how could she fight with her juniors? When they rushed over, although the fight had been pulled apart, the scene was still chaotic, and the crying was incessant. Jingwan found that her younger brothers and sisters were probably involved in the fight, and there seemed to be more than 2 young masters from the prince's mansion. Yu Yao didn't cry, but her hair and clothes were a little messy. She lowered her head and hugged the bloody and powerless little tiger in her arms. Her heart couldn't help but skip a few beats. When they saw the adults coming, they seemed to see their backbone and stepped forward to complain. "Stand still. It's improper." Great Elder Princess's tone was not heavy, but they all became obedient. Great Elder Princess didn't rush to protect her children, nor did she go forward to comfort them. Instead, she glanced at Jingwan. Obviously, she wanted to let Jingwan deal with it. After all, this was Prince Jin's mansion, and Jingwan was her adopted daughter. If it were in other mansions, it wouldn't be like this. Jingwan understood and said, "Go and ask the doctor to come here." "Bai Xiao, what's going on? Tell me." Bai Xiao stepped forward and squatted. "Your Highness, it's like this. Master Wang and the two girls of the Luo family were playing with the little tiger and feeding it. The second young master of Prince Kang's mansion and the heir of Prince Gong's mansion also wanted it, but Master Wang refused to give it to them. They quarreled with each other, and the matter was temporarily settled. But not long after, the second young master and the heir of Prince Gong's mansion gathered the two young masters of their mansions and the two commanderies' mansions. They snatched the little tiger and threw it to the ground hard. If it didn't fall to death, they picked it up and smashed it to the ground. While smashing it, the heir of Prince Gong said, "What I can't get, no one else can't get." Because there were so many people and the little tiger was surrounded in the middle, we didn't dare to force forward, for fear of hurting the young masters. Finally, the little tiger was thrown to the feet of Master Wang by the heir of Prince Gong's mansion. Its head was covered with blood and it was dying. Master Wang was so anxious that he rushed up and fought with the heir of Prince Gong. Later, Master Wang bit the heir of Prince Gong's mansion hard. The heir of Prince Gong asked the second young master for help, but the second young master pulled Master Wang's hair. The two girls of the Luo family saw that Master Wang was bullied, so they came forward to help, and then the other young masters came forward to help. Leaving aside the details, the cause and effect were already very clear. However, Bai Xiao did mention some details, but these details were all about princely heir of Prince Gong. Great Elder Princess glanced coldly at the princess consort. The princess consort's face turned blue and white. She did notice Great Elder Princess's gaze, but she pretended not to see it and stepped forward aggressively. "You bitch! How dare you slander princely heir of Prince Gong?" She raised her hand and was about to slap her. However, Bai Xiao was a martial artist, so how could she be easily slapped? Moreover, she didn't talk nonsense. If she was slapped, she didn't care, but her master would be disgraced. Therefore, she took a step back without hesitation. The princess consort's face turned darker when she failed to slap Bai Xiao. "How dare you dodge?" She slapped Bai Xiao again. Qin, Great Elder Princess's face was cold. She was used to being arrogant. Except for Emperor Lu Qing, no one could make her lower her head. This niece-in-law dared to deliberately ignore her. Her son did something wrong, but she didn't discipline him and even dared to be fierce. How could she not be angry? Slander. How dare she, a maid, say slander in front of so many people? Do you think everyone is blind? You have taught such a cruel and domineering son. You are not a good person either. The princess consort didn't dare to slap Bai Xiao again. She was so impolitely reprimanded by Great Elder Princess in front of so many people. Her face turned red, and her nails almost dug into the flesh of her palms. She was even more resentful in her heart and cursed Great Elder Princess in all kinds of ways. Great Elder Princess sneered. She knew very well what the princess consort was thinking. Some people were like this and never knew how to reflect on themselves. You should also have a good talk with the princess consort. One by one, tell her clearly and in detail. So many children were involved in this group fight, as long as they weren't blind, they should know what the cause was. As a servant from the prince's mansion, although his master was also a prince, he didn't have the slightest bit of power, nor was he favored by the emperor. His little master was forcibly dragged away by the prince's heir, and together they made a big mistake and offended Great Elder Princess. It was reasonable to say that they should be on the side of the Gong Prince's heir. After all, the Gong Prince had power in his hands, and might be able to ascend to the throne. However, there were too many people who saw it. It should be known that in addition to those who were involved, there were more bystanders. They were the children of other families, and even some adults and servants. It was also easy for Great Elder Princess to punish a servant from another family. Therefore, it was impossible to completely side with the Gong Prince's heir, and half side would offend both sides. It was better to put all the blame on the Gong Prince's heir, and get his little master out of trouble. Therefore, these people who could serve their little master closely were not idiots. Their minds turned at lightning speed, and they had already made a decision. Therefore, they all talked at once about the matter. Regarding the details, you add a few sentences, I add a few sentences. In any case, the one who made the biggest mistake was the Gong Qin Prince's heir apparent, followed by Prince Kang's second son, and the rest were not wrong. The princess consort was trembling with anger and fell into a situation of isolation and helplessness. However, no one sympathized with her. Even the servants who served the princely heir of the prince of the Gong mansion were trembling at this time and almost couldn't stand, because they were very clear about what they would face. Gong Jiu rushed over and checked a group of little children. They were all small bruises and would be fine after applying some medicine. Jingwan nodded. Bai Xiao, take them to freshen up, apply some medicine, and change their clothes. Qin Zhu, find out which family these children are from, inform their elders one by one and explain the matter clearly. The two nodded and acted separately. The concubine of Prince Kong also dragged the second son of the Gong mansion and took him to freshen up in person. It was obvious that Great Elder Princess was angry. If they stayed now, they had to resolve her resentment and might add fuel to the fire. They'd better leave quickly and talk about it later. But Yu Yao stood still and refused to let go of the tiger cub that Gong Jiu confirmed to be dead. Great Elder Princess finally stepped forward. Yu Yao looked up and tears fell down. Mother, the tiger cub is dead. It's dead. Cousin-in-law promised to give it to me as long as you agreed. I promised to take good care of it, but now it's dead. It's dead. Mother, Great Elder Princess had never seen Yu Yao so sad, so she was naturally distressed and hurriedly wiped her tears. Don't cry, Yu Yao. I'll ask your uncle to uphold justice for you. Yu Yao had more than one uncle, but everyone knew who Great Elder Princess was talking about. Princess Gong, who also felt distressed for her son and spoke ill of the person who wanted to take her son to freshen up, heard her words, but the resentment in her heart turned into fear. Needless to say, she knew the result of this matter in front of her father. Even if her son was bitten and bled and was seriously injured, the final result could not be changed. She had planned to leave with her son, but at this moment, she had to suppress such an idea. The current plan was to find a way to appease Great Elder Princess, as long as it was not in front of her father. And, I was wrong just now. I was also angry. As she said, she pulled her son over and slapped him on the back of his head. You bastard, who allowed you to rob your aunt's things? It's just a beast. If you want it, why can't your father and I give it to you? Hurry up and apologize to your aunt. She said that she was apologizing, but the meaning of her words was more and more infuriating. Jingwan really wondered if there was something wrong with her IQ, or if she was just pointing at the mulberry tree and scolding the locust tree. Moreover, did she even realize what her son had done wrong? Crown Prince Gong was younger than Yu Yao, and he was raised by Princess Gong to be a real bully. He was instilled with the idea that he was the imperial grandson, so he could have anything he wanted. Now he was like this, but his mother not only didn't help him vent his anger, but also asked him to apologize. He couldn't calm down, so he straightened his neck and said, "Why should I apologize? I've always been a beast, so what if I snatch something? She's an elder. shouldn't she give it to me? Princess Gong was really angry with her son at this moment. Of course, in her opinion, she didn't think her son was wrong. You bastard, apologize when I ask you. Why are you talking so much nonsense? Crown Prince Gong's eyes were red. Mother, you help an outsider instead of me. I hate you. After that, he ran away. Princess Gong scolded, bastard, but in the face of Great Elder Princess's cold and sarcastic expression, she unconsciously lowered her head. Aunt, I don't deserve it. Aunt, don't be angry. I'll apologize to cousin on behalf of that evil creature, don't you think so? Yu Yao, your nephew is still young and doesn't know anything. Can you forgive him this time? If you like little tigers, I'll ask your fourth cousin to find you 8 or 10. You can play with them however you want. What do you think? After hearing her words, Yu Yao smiled sarcastically, like Great Elder Princess, fourth cousin-in-law, do you think I'm a fool? Forgive him. Okay, I don't want anything else. Leave those 8 or 10 for your son to play with. I just want this one. If you let it live, I won't care about it. Princess Gong was choked by a little girl and couldn't say anything. Yu Yao snorted and then looked at Great Elder Princess and Jingwan, mother, cousin-in-law, I'm going to freshen up. Then she left silently with the body of the little tiger. The servants hurriedly followed, and the maid of Jin Qinhuang mansion hurriedly led the way. Foster mother, I'm also responsible for this, okay, it's none of your business. Don't take everything on yourself. Even if you can't be as shameless as some people who can't wait to push all the mistakes to others or find excuses to cover up, at least don't foolishly take the responsibility that you shouldn't take. Great Elder Princess coldly reprimanded Jingwan. Foster mother, you're right. I'll remember it. Jingwan listened obediently. Okay, go do your business. Jingwan and Great Elder Princess left one after the other, leaving Princess Gong standing there alone. In the eyes of the children, the people who saw this good show were still pure and innocent. Only those few who were worried about the children or came to slack off couldn't help but whisper to each other in 2s and 3s, using their handkerchiefs to cover their mouths, as if they were deliberately trying to hide something. Being laughed at by such a group of sluts, the Gong Qin Wangfei only wanted to tear them apart, but in the end, she could only endure, acting as if she didn't know anything, in order to protect her dignity. If what Great Elder Princess said today was spread out, her reputation would really be tarnished. Compared with this, how could she explain it to her husband and father? Her son and grandson were not good. It must be because she, as a mother, didn't teach them well. No matter how many servants she used to pay for the crime, she couldn't shirk the responsibility. As expected, the bitch Luo was born to be her nemesis. Every time something happened, it was related to her. Princess Gong really hated her in her heart, but she was deeply powerless because she couldn't take revenge at all. Because of Jingwan's incitement, the child's elders quickly knew about this matter. Previously, when they didn't know the specific situation, the child talked about it after Jingwan and the others left, but they didn't expect that their family was also involved. It was simply a ruthless slap to the face. They really hated Gong Qin Wangfei to death. How did she teach her son? Not only did she herself make a stupid mistake, she also implicated their family's child. Fortunately, their family's darling was fine. She didn't look at the situation she was in now. She didn't know when to advance or retreat. Just wait and see, sooner or later she would fall hard and never be able to climb back up. As for the children of the Luo family, the adults led by old Madame Luo didn't say anything. In fact, not saying anything was already equivalent to thinking that they didn't do anything wrong. They, who were originally a little nervous, looked at each other, understood tacitly, and tiptoed back to play. When it's time to make a move, you can make a move, but you must learn to protect yourself. Don't be reckless. The sneaky children stared blankly for a moment, then reacted. Understood, grandmother. They responded loudly. It must be said that this matter wasn't small, and soon everyone in the front yard knew about it. Li Hongyuan's gaze lightly fell on the Gong Prince. The Gong Prince couldn't help but feel a chill in his heart. Sixth brother, this is your fault. Since you brought it back, there must be more than one. Why don't you release them all? Everyone has one, so there's no need to snatch one. Was this the preemptive strike? https://11/11807/10374442. You're tuning in to the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.